Today, I want to talk about 5 things I've learned on the Bargue Method. I'm going to be honest, I haven't used the Bargue Method to study on my own journey. And I had a little bit of a preconceived idea on what it was. I always thought of the Bargue as this kind of body part images that we saw on the internet over and over again. Some people used them, some people copied them, but I didn't see the whole picture, the whole objective of this course. But then I found this book by Gerald Ackerman, and it really changed my whole view, my perspective on the mentality behind the whole method and the effectiveness it can have in beginner artists and students. I already knew that the method was done in collaboration with Jean Langeron. Some of you might know his work, might have seen and heard stories and all of that. He was a very prominent figure in the academic period, especially the late 1900s and early 20th century. He was also a great teacher that really influenced curriculum, both in his atelier as well as the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. But I had never given enough thought on how it was implemented in his atelier with his students and so on. So when I started researching and looking for knowledge on this, I really thought there were documentation out there on how to use the plates because I knew the plates existed but didn't know how to use them. And I discovered that there aren't any records of how to use the book. So Gerald Ackerman's book is a research, a collection of learnings from multiple people that use the method or historical facts, trying to put together how to use it, as well as giving good quality prints of the almost 200 plates that were used in the learning method. So the 5 things are, the first of them is that this is a 3-part structured. I always thought of the Bargue, especially with the body parts and all, as one block of 197 plates that you need to study. But now that I understand the mentality behind it, breaking that down into 3 parts really makes a lot of sense in terms of how to digest that and how can you use that for your own evolution. The second part is that this isn't just about learning to draw and measure proportions. As we saw in Betty Edwards' book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, this is not only that. This is training your eye for quality, what looks good. And for that, it will use a lot of high quality artwork as a basis. So all those body parts that we are seeing, we will look at some examples that they are from some of the best sculptures that art history has to offer. The third lesson is that choosing your references and even on the artists that you admire, breaking down what makes sense and using that in your learning curve will really help influence how you make your own visual solutions that will constitute your style when it gets to that point. So it's also way broader than just looking at learning to draw. This will bring a lot of the references and will help you slow down and take your time to get from those references what you need to really learn. Lesson 4 is that this whole method is supposed to be a construction towards drawing from life. So don't look at it once again as just a way to learn proportions and everything. It's educating your eye on what to see and how to solve. So part 1 is what to see and the quality of seeing. And part 2 is how to solve that in different ways so that when you get to the figure from life, you have a tool set to work with. And part 5, as always, is a collaborative effort. I'll bring some books so we can expand our knowledge, as well as what about you. What have you learned on this? What other resources have you used? This is supposed to be a collaborative effort with the community. So the three-part structure is already here in the back of the book. If you go in, you can see that the first part is supposed to be after casts of sculptures, mostly antique and classical, but as well as Renaissance, a lot of Michelangelo and a little bit of Bernini here and there, but a lot of Greek and Roman sculptures, a lot of copies in marble. The second part is composed of drawings. It's composed of visual solutions that Bargue made lithographs so that everyone could use and spread that out as a learning method. And the last one, almost 60 drawings of male models from life. So only the structure, as you can see here, and we'll see more examples down the line. This is a very interesting solution. It has way more gesture than we are used to with this kind of drawings here. So expect to learn gesture, to learn construction, to learn quality of lines and quality of readability inside your image, composition, flow, and all of that from this. This will take a little bit off the stiffness that we are used to when we think academic drawing, when we think Charles Bargue. And to help us understand how this will develop our eye for quality, improve our choices, our references, and will lead us to our style, all the way to becoming better at drawing from life, I've gathered some examples to dive deeper in each part. Starting with part one, this is one example of a classic sculpture. This is a Borghese gladiator from the 1st century BC. It's part of the collection of the Louvre in Paris. And you can definitely see the direct relationship with the foot from the sculpture with the plate from Bargue. We might look at this arm and not directly correlate it with Michelangelo's Moses in the St. Peter's Cathedral in the Vatican. This is the arm that Bargue used for this plate. So this is the kind of example, and you can see the veins, you can see the active muscles and all of that in here. And this is where we start even getting angles that we might not find from photographs. And we can really dive deeper into this, the quality of this kind of work. The Venus di Medici, another ancient sculpture, classical ancient sculpture. So you can see we don't have, I couldn't find at least a photograph with the right angle, but this is the back of this foot. You can definitely see the resemblance in here. The Dying Slave by Michelangelo, back in the Louvre, now with both legs. And we can see also that we're traveling both geographically as well as in time to find the best reference, to gather it, and really get ourselves exposed to high quality artwork. This horse head from the Parthenon, this is from the British Museum collection. You definitely can study from this, but this also has simplified a lot of the values, a lot of the details, a little bit of the texture in there. So you can get something simpler and in a different pose to study. Homer, this is a very famous plate as well. This is another sculpture from the British Museum collection. The Belvedere torso, also from the Museum of the Vatican. So another great reference to study from with a very simplified value structure so that we don't rely on drawing from life if we are there or photographs that we can find on the internet. And last but not least in this area, the Milo of Croton. Now the full torso, a little bit of the leg, as well as a little bit of the lion in here. And the full headshot as well. Another amazing sculpture from the Louvre collection, simplified, easy structure, or at least easier structure, so you can tackle this drawing and then you can get the sculpture and really try it out from the real resource, especially if you go to Paris, go to the Louvre, and study from life. If we jump to part two, as I said before, this is a collection from Bargue and Jerome. They chose the drawings to be here. So one from Jerome here, as well as a drawing from Leon Bonnat, another teacher from the academic period. A lot of great artists studied with both of them. A drawing by Bouguereau, or taken from one of Bouguereau's paintings, as well as Flandrin. And finally, a drawing by Timoleon Lobrichon. I didn't know this artist, but also another great drawing to learn from. All of them have different visual solutions. If we go back here, we can see different hatching, different ways of solving the problems, solving the visual challenges. So this is where you will dive deeper and slowly into reconstructing and getting to the same level of quality that those drawings have. You can do this with the collection from these plates. You can do this from other drawings you admire. Beware that you don't have the eye for quality that Jerome has and Bargue has. So your choices might not give the same improvement you would get with these that they chose to put on the plates. But you can really go all the way to modern artists you might like, enjoy their line work, and really slow down and copy and understand what they're doing, even if in an unconscious way. If you're copying slowly and really taking the time to look, you are going to be absorbing a lot of those solutions as well. I'm going to talk later on about books to really broaden this idea, but a book on memory drawing takes this to the next level. And drawing some of those from memory will really help solidify what you're learning and how you apply that later on in your own drawings. So last but not least, these are some drawings from life, Bargue drawings from life, from Mayo models. And as I was saying, you can definitely see a lot of action here, gesture, even in the standing pose, the rested pose. You can see the wave of the arm here holding the stick. You can see the hair fall off. You can see the resting arm in here. So a lot of different interesting poses that have been solved here and will help you learn the proportions as well as like the line of action and so on, and the resting figure. So the weight is concentrated in here. So what that does to muscles and to the rest of the body. So there is a lot to learn, even unconsciously, as I said, when you're drawing and taking the time to observe. You're not focusing a lot in the anatomy, but there are some hints here of muscles, but you're also learning the pose, the structure, the quality of drawing, the quality of lines, line weights. So the weight of the lines are thicker here when the foot touches the ground. There is a connection there. There is an occlusion shadow. You can see the same here where the hand meets this box. There is a thicker line. There is a thicker line on underplanes because less light is getting there. So this type of solution will help really guide your drawings. The same can be seen here and studied here. A lot of action here. This gesture line with the hand I find to be really beautiful. You can see the resting arm. And the more you copy those, the more that will be ingrained in your mind to use later on when you're drawing from the real figure. And I highly encourage you to do. This is what the method is supposed to get. So if you have drawing sessions in your city, or gather a group, hire a model, so that you can really practice this later on. So just two more here. It really reminds me some of the drawings by Steve Houston and Robert Liberace, more modern artists that are using this kind of ropes, pulling ropes. This gesture line is also super interesting, super nice. So take your time. And if you already done a lot of these studies, please share in the comments what you have learned. Definitely it will help other people get from that point and learn more on top of that, and then come back here and share. Let's make this a collaborative effort. If I do go through these as well, I'll comment below and talk to you all. So finally, some books to go further, to go beyond from this. As I said, the memory drawing part, I'm still reading this book, I'm discovering that a lot of the artists from the academic period, especially the late 19th century, they studied memory drawing as well in the ateliers. And I really feel that the methodology discussed in the memory drawing book can really be applied in all parts of Bargue and really help improve what you're learning and how you're going to use that later on in drawing from imagination. Another great resource is Juliette Aristides. I've heard a lot from her. I haven't studied from her myself, but she has books on drawing as well as painting. If you have studied with her books, please share in the comments as well so we can learn all together. I hope this was useful. I hope this inspired you to go on and maybe go back and study Bargue. If you haven't, or if you're starting out, jump right in and learn a little bit from this very interesting method. I can already say it did impact me because I'm looking at these drawings and this hand and looking at some of those shapes, so I can simplify some of those values in here as well as the cover from these books. So it's interesting. It's already changing a little bit the way I'm looking at stuff and trying to figure out how I would put that on paper. I hope it did the same to you. That's it from me. Have an amazing learning journey, an amazing day, and we'll definitely catch up in other videos. Bye.